You're watching Talking Point on StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh Revi. The White House has blocked certain categories of foreign skilled workers with a presidential proclamation. And to get their opinions and analysis of the impact of that, let's go to two corners of the United States, to Vivek Wadhwa, who's in San Francisco in California, and to Sanjay Puri, who's in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, both, for joining us. Mr. Wadhwa, if I can just come to you in terms of the numbers, India is the most impacted in this, though it's for future travelers or future non-immigrants to come in there. We've seen all the numbers there. Uh, Put that in perspective in terms of the impact, Mr. Wadhwa.
Yeah, three-quarters of the applicants for the H-1B visas are Indians. So, there'll be tens of thousands of people who can't come here. Now, given where we are with the pandemic, the fact is that few people will be coming here anyway. So this is more noise than this is, Trump posturing and stirring up his base. And the negative effect is going to be the message it sends out to the world that America has closed its doors, it's become xenophobic, stay away. That's more damaging than the actual legislation because very likely there'll be change of government by the end of the year,
Hmm.
and the new government will restore these things. So less damage would have been done than appears, but the fact is that the message is wrong.
Mr. Puri, just getting you in on that message, though the White House and the administration says it's because it's the biggest depression since the big one in 1930, and it's to protect American jobs. But it does seem like he's catering to the hardliners within the administration, including people like Stephen Miller, who've been advocating these kind of policies for years. Is that your view as well, Mr. Puri?
See, I mean, the reality is that this is a pretty hard economic jolt to this country. So
Yeah.
that's a fact that we need to put out there. There are a lot of people who are not having jobs. The numbers can be 20%, 25%. We just had 1.2 million people who filed claims. So the optics are this, that you have people who are, because once the PPP money, which is, the stimulus money runs out, that's when it's going to really get to figure out how it's going to impact. But, Vivek's point is how many people, because you also have to understand that not people are, India also is in a lockdown. So how many people are
Yeah.
traveling back and forth? But, the irony that is there is a lot of people who are at the front line of this pandemic are people who came in through the immigration process, whether it's H-1B or et
Yeah.
cetera. Look at the physicians, either they came in through J-1s, they came in through immigrations, et cetera, Indian origin physicians and others. So, I understand the perspective that we have an economic crisis, but also we need the best and the brightest in this country to keep the fight. When you look at the vaccines that are being created, you might want to go and look in some of those labs and find out who are the people who are actually working on those labs.
The optics, the message, Mr. Wadhwa, again, there's no denying the fact of the numbers on unemployment across the world and especially in the United States. But this, whether it's optics, whether it's a message like you're saying, this is to do with high skilled workers. Now, are they really losing their jobs there? I mean, you put that in perspective in several of your writings.
Yeah, well, see, right now, the tech industry is actually doing quite well. The big companies,
Mm.
they're actually hiring because we're doing more web searches, we're downloading more apps. So the startups in the right areas are innovating. So this is when America should be focusing on innovation, on reinventing itself. That should be taking advantage of this crisis to rethink its policies, to rethink its innovation, and to refocus. The threat right now to America, frankly, is coming from China
Hmm.
because China, what happened over the last 2 decades, and I've actually written a book about it, the Immigrant Exodus,
In
was that
2002, right?
these, yeah, in 2002, that we basically, had these flawed immigration policies. We were bringing all these people in and then sending them back. And China, between the theft that it did of trade secrets,
Mm.
between the people it planted in American labs, and before the industrial scale, stealing that they did, they essentially were able to capture a lot of knowledge and get a lot of people to return from here back to China. And those people are innovating. Why is America panicked about 5G and going all over the world trying to get
Yeah.
companies and countries not to buy it? Because China has stolen enough, and they had returnees coming back from America who were able to build better technologies there. So they basically had an industrial policy that gave them an advantage over everyone else. They defied normal trading rules. They broke every rule there is, and now they became a threat.
Yeah.
So America, the solution here is to out innovate, is to
Hmm.
build the next generation of mobile technologies, the next generation of genetic technologies, and to leapfrog the world in innovation. So we should have an industrial policy that helps America leap ahead, not tie its hands behind its back and struggle the way it's going to have to do by closing the doors this way.
By closing the doors, Mr. Puri, even though you're saying the pandemic, there may not be too many people who would be wanting to travel there. But the point that Mr. Wadhwa is bringing up about our high skills, and that's something that you raised as well. Is America really shooting itself in the foot with these kind of anti immigration, foreign immigration laws?
Well, it's a two-edged sword, Amitabh. When you tell companies in the
Hmm.
world, connected world that we are in, we are not
Yeah.
going to let workers come in. Guess what they do? They send work out to those places. And when you send
Yeah.
work out to those places, those jobs never come back. At least the people you're bringing in will one day become American citizens. They're highly skilled. But when you start sending, because today it really doesn't matter. Vivek is in California, you're in India, I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
What does it matter for any of our viewers? And same thing, today it does not really matter where the work gets done. So, as I said, it's a two-edged sword. Be very careful when you start closing doors. The work is going to go, the
Yeah.
talent is not going to come, and innovation will start flourishing elsewhere because those labs will start being developed in Bangalore and Delhi and in Russia and all those other places where we are sending work out to.
Mr. Wadhwa, we're already seeing moves like that. You're talking about even decades from 2002, and now China and India and other countries have gained from the American policies. Now, I beg your pardon. Even if this is only temporary till the end of the year, uh, the jobs that will be lost, whether it's outsourcing, like Mr. Puri is pointing out, which can be done online, or whether jobs are set up in different countries. We've seen Australia, UK, Canada, who are already trying to, if I can use the word, poach those kind of jobs, which America is saying no to.
Well, that's what a lot of people here. I'm in Silicon Valley. A lot of the people who are doubtful about being able to stay here are simply moving to Vancouver or Toronto. I mean, Canada is welcoming them. They have visa policies that embrace these skilled immigrants, and Canada has actually become a very good place to go to. And then all over the world, countries are welcoming these immigrants. So this is like manufacturing. America was stupid enough to let manufacturing leave the country, and now it's struggling to bring manufacturing back. It doesn't have the critical mass so that it can force Apple to manufacture over here. So the same thing is happening with the intellectual talent right now. That once it's gone, it's gone. Once the clusters happen, in other countries, you're not going to easily get them back. So in the future, America would have to have policies like what other countries do, by which they motivate people to come here by giving them money or giving them other benefits, giving them research labs. I mean, this is what the Chinese did to get people to come back there. They bribed people as much as they could. These are the sort of things America will have to start doing. So far, it's had a free lunch. That everyone came here. They brought their knowledge with them. They brought their experience with them, and they brought their money with them. So they came here. They bought houses. They started companies. This was amazing for America. Gave it an incredible advantage, and now we're sort of frittering that advantage away.
Mr. Puri, how much of a move do you see this as being political in the run up to the elections and President Trump and the administration looking to cater to his particular constituency?
See, Amitabh, this is an election year.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, that everything generally is political. And it's not about America, it's generally everywhere, in every
Sure.
democracy. A lot of, sometimes politics takes over policy. But the perspective is, the reality that we also need to face is there is a serious unemployment issue in this country. Now, whether it is tied into bringing people in H1, farm workers, etc., that's a different debate. But the debate that we should be having also is how do we open up America in a sensible way, and how do we get people back to work more than let's block the people who are high skilled and coming back, because when those people come back in, it's going to help even the people who are out of work come back to work because the jobs are going to be created. Think about who is hiring right now. It's the
Yep.
Walmarts, the Amazons, etc. But they're hiring on the basis of technology, the things that Vivek and others in Silicon Valley are doing. Think about what's happening with companies like Postmates and others. They've revolutionized, delivery, food delivery. You couldn't go out, so people were delivering food. But it is basically an app that is driven out there, and they're hiring hundreds and thousands of workers. So I think those are the innovative things that we need to be thinking about, because the world has changed. After 9/11, you started taking off your shoes and belts and everything else. After
Yep.
this pandemic, this is going to be a different world when you go back to your office. If you go back to your office, you're going to be using hand sanitizer, you're going to be using masks, you're going to be staying away. So how do we innovate and bring people back? I think that's the discussion we should be having, Amitabh.
Mr. Wadhwa, in terms of the systemic issues within the American system, and you've been pointing that out again, like I'm saying, for decades, it's not just the entry level in terms of these various categories, the whole process. And you outlined that in your recent opinion piece in Foreign Policy as well, when you're looking at the incentives that are given both for usually tech companies which pick up these high skilled workers, and the process of giving a green card or permanent residency. If you could elaborate on your argument there.
Amitabh, right now, if you're one of my students at Carnegie Mellon or Harvard and
Yeah.
you graduate, my advice to students is don't
And
even
most of
think of
them would
staying
be
here.
Chinese, right?
Right now here they happen to be Chinese, but whether they're Indian or Chinese, the fact is it doesn't make sense for them to be here anymore. If you're Indian in particular, looking at a 90-year wait. You forget it, you're going to die before you get your green card. In the meantime, you're stuck doing a menial job at some tech company that takes advantage of you. So it's a loss for the worker because they're stuck in their careers, they're getting relatively low salaries. It's a loss for Americans because they're competing with bonded labor. That's what I argued in foreign policy. The simple solution here would have been to let the market roll. I mean, right now you have this is like India gets criticized for its socialist past. Some of these
Yeah.
policies are even worse than that. You have 7% country limits. Why do you have 7% country limits? Because 50 years ago, 100 years ago, they wanted to keep the Japanese out. So that those policies stayed. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And then the fact is that you're tied to your employer. This is like being literally a bonded slave that you can't leave. If you leave, I mean, there are some technical ways you can leave, but it's not practical. So you're stuck working for the same employer. These things don't make sense. This is supposed to be a free market capitalism. Let the free markets rule. Let companies hire the most qualified people, and those qualified people being underpaid, let them go and get new jobs. Why should they be here? So for these, next generation of entrepreneurs, people who will be starting companies here, it doesn't make sense. Why don't we have a startup visa? With the pandemic, yes, we have a shortage of jobs. Well, why not now open up the floodgates? Any company that comes here and hires 10 Americans, you can get a green card. If as long as those people are employed for 3 years, okay, fine, you have a green card. You'd have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of companies moving over here and hiring, hundreds of thousands of Americans. So you need creative policies such as that, not these brain dead policies and not the xenophobia you're seeing coming from the Trump administration.
Mr. Puri, what's the resonance in capital in terms of the politics of it? Is the opposition raising it? Or what about the business houses, the business chambers? Is there any voice that is being raised apart from those who are losing out on these category visas?
Yeah, Amitabh, U.S. Chamber of Commerce has, I think, come out against it. A lot of, the tech companies have come out against it. But, politically, it's a very dicey situation
Yeah.
in an election year. It's a two-edged sword to say, hey, we've got a massive unemployment and let people come in from a political standpoint for them to say. But the behind the scenes pressure, behind the scenes communication dialogue is absolutely happening. We are communicating with all the people on the Capitol Hill side so that the pressure can be made and the word can be out there. So the business houses are doing what they are going to be doing, but politically, it's not too many people who are going to stand up and say, hey, let people come in.
Politically, not too many people, Mr. Wadhwa, but would you say that most of the industry, or at least the tech industry, would have a vested interest in keeping the system as it is?
This is why the visa is so flawed. This is why we have the immigrant exodus, because tech companies don't want to do what I'm talking about. They don't want to free the worker. They'd rather have them as bonded labor because they can't leave. In a tech company, typically after 2 or 3 years, people leave you, or you give them big salary increases. So if
Yeah.
the company knows that it's going to take 20 years for them to get a green card or 50 years for them to get a green card, why increase salaries? Why give them promotions? So they get treated like garbage. And this is what happened. It didn't just be, it used to be like this. When I came here in 1980, I got a green card within 18 months. And then I
Mm.
ended up starting a company, a decade later, and the company employed 1,000 people. So America benefited in a big way because it was much easier for immigrants to come here and to do what they needed to do. Now the system is completely screwed up, and tech companies, what they'll lobby for more H-1B visas so they can hire people and have them working for them forever, but they won't lobby for the removal of the per country limits, or they won't lobby for the removal of the bondage, so that they have to, these people can work freely. This is why I don't advise my students to stay here anymore.
Mr. Puri, the systemic flaws in that sense, when you're looking at America getting competitive, and what Mr. Badwa is speaking about there, is that once they come in, say, on these visas, and we're not talking about the current situation, of course, with the categories being blocked, uh, is that they're wedded to that tech company, correct? As in, they can't move from one to the other very easily. They can't take another job within the company, which gives them more money. Those kind of flaws, why are they still systemic within the system?
See, I think, Amitabh, some of those things, Vivek, have changed where people are now allowed to move around.
No,
Some
Sanjay, I had this debate with the former president of the Immigration Lawyers Association.
Mm.
There are so many technicalities here. I mean, it's like emancipation that the slaves were freed here 200 years ago, and yet look at the Black Lives Matter. It's the fact is that those laws don't translate into anything usable. These people are stuck here. We have a million skilled workers, majority of them Indians, who are stuck here. The fact is that even you're not lobbying for them because you're listening to what these tech companies are saying, and we're not fixing the real problem.
Mr.
so
Puri?
I think, Amitabh and Vivek, I understand the perspective. The one of the big challenges is the country cap that India has, and we've been fighting for that. I mean, that needs to go. I mean, because some of those things that Vivek is talking about, the 90-year that it'll take for people to get whatever the time it's going to take for the green cards. So those things have to be fixed. The challenge that we have, Amitabh, is immigration is a very complicated issue.
Yeah.
We have people who came in illegally that need to get legal. Then you have these visas. So no side. So if the Republicans say we'll give on the H-1B side and we want them done, then the other side will say we want all in a big immigration package. So the big immigration package will never happen, and you get all these pieces stuck in there. And so that's what we've been focused is get this out of the immigration debate. This is not an immigration debate, it's an innovation debate. And that's why we don't call it an immigration issue, because when you call it an immigration issue on Capitol Hill, nothing will happen because there are some huge challenges on that front. And that's the issue that we are dealing with.
So you should, in this current Black Lives Matter world, you should frame it as racism, systematic countrywide racism. It was the legislation was enacted literally to keep the Japanese out, right? Because the Japanese were the evil ones in those days. Now it's everyone else, but we need to reframe it in light of what's happening there, and get that should be a no-brainer to start with. I completely agree with you on that.
When you're saying there's no movement, Mr. Wadhwa, again, in the current situation in India, when we're looking at the tension with China, a lot of analysts are looking at how the alignment between the US and India could possibly become stronger because of that. Now, when there are issues like this which keep coming up between the US and India, and they have been doing so for a long time, trade is one of them, immigration is another, these H-1B visas and other visas. Uh, can the relationship still move towards that stronger alignment when you have to deal with containing China or challenging China or making it behave when there are irritants like this?
I think that both democracies, they agree to disagree because India also has trade barriers for American goods. It's not like,
Yeah.
India is doing everything right. India has got all
Yeah.
sorts of archaic regulations that prevent Americans from going and competing over there.
Sure.
So it's a two-way street. So yes, all these things need to be fixed, but I think that the strategic interests are completely aligned. And that's why you're going to see India and America coming together like never before. And China was stupid enough now to get the entire Indian public against it. Before you had, a significant chunk of the Indian public thinking that China is good, buying Chinese goods. Now I think that you're going to find that 90% plus of the Indian public is completely against China. China mishandled this like nothing else before. Their arrogance has gotten ahead of them. I mean, if they had gradually become more assertive, that would have been one thing. But just at the time when the world hates China, blames China for locking everyone up with this pandemic, suddenly to now start pulling these stunts all over the world, they couldn't have been more stupid. I mean, this is really arrogance to the extreme. Even if you look at my Twitter stream,
Yeah.
I'm very calm and apolitical. Comes to China, I've been ruthless. I mean, I've been ripping into them and echoing Donald Trump in many cases, because that's what China has done. It's push people over the edge. It's push countries over the edge. So it's good for U.S. America,
Mr. Puri, is it good for India,
U.S.
America as
India.
well?
What was it, Amitabh? I didn't get
Is it
that.
good? We saw even the Ministry of External Affairs issuing a statement. Their weekly briefing, the spokesperson spoke about it and how America should be allowing skills. The question is basically, can India-US ties grow stronger despite issues like this? Because, like you're saying, politically, it's a no-brainer that this is not going to go away, at least this year in the US, and nothing's going to happen to change that. So does that overcome the relationship between India, between Washington and New Delhi? In sense, can both countries do that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the foundation of the two countries, as Vivek highlighted, is shared values. I mean, how many countries that the United States can find which are democratic, pluralistic, have a capitalistic system, a legal system to a large extent that work, and has a population of 1.3 billion, 70% of the people probably under the age of 35, a market that is growing, the
Yeah.
second largest telecom market in the world, consumers that love McDonald's and KFC. I mean, the economic interests are aligned, the political interests are aligned, the geostrategic interests are aligned completely. So immigration is a big issue. I understand, especially from an Indian standpoint. But in the big scheme of things, I would say there are many more important things that tie the countries together. I mean, we have pharmaceutical interests. We have so many alignments that are happening because the United States wants to be freed from the API stranglehold of China.
China.
United States wants to be freed from the precious metal stranglehold of China. So we have a lot of interest on energy. Look at the alignment that we have with energy, the exports that are happening of LNG and natural gas, etc. So my point is, there are so many things that the alignment is happening, and I think with this incident that is happening, the realization, even I think in the defense organization, which is still sometimes embedded in the Cold War past, they've come
Yeah.
to a realization that now maybe I think this might be the thing that will get everything moving from the defense sector, that the Cold War is now done, and this is the new reality, and we need to start working with the United States.
Amitabh, on the immigration thing,
Yep.
this is actually good for India because India right now has its own IT
Yeah.
industry, it's got its own technology startup industry. It can use all the smart people it can have. And, I've been a big proponent of US immigration, but it's not going to get I mean, the Democrats aren't going to suddenly come and do magic. They're going to focus on the undocumented
Yeah.
immigrants. So in the meantime, if Indian students from the US go back to India, it's a big win for India. So America has actually given India a gift over here. As far as IT services companies go, they've been hiring in America anyway. And now with the pandemic, their customers are used to working from
Hmm.
home. I mean, I've been talking to CP Gurnani from Tech Mahindra quite a while. He's a good friend of mine. And at
Right.
first he was worried, but now he sort of realized that, hey, my people can work as well from home, which means my customers can also, I don't have to have so many people on site as I did before. So this is actually an opportunity for Indian IT to reinvent itself and to do more from where they were and not to have to send people abroad so they can improve their margins. So by the time they're done, they're going to come out stronger from this, not weaker. So, even though I've been critical about US policies, but I'm saying that for the United States' sake, from
Yeah.
an Indian perspective, this is actually a win. Donald Trump gave Modi a gift here by listening to Stephen Miller.
Mr. Wadhwa and Mr. Puri, I really appreciate your time from both corners of the United States discussing this subject. We'll keep in touch with you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All the best.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank
And to
you.
all
All the best,
our
Sanjay.
viewers, you can get all the latest news and analysis from an Indian perspective on our website, stratnewsglobal.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And if you just click on that bell icon on our YouTube channel, you will get reminders for videos like this that we put up. You're watching Talking Point on Strat News Global. I'm Amitabh Revi.